Hey you, welcome to the GreyT Talks podcast. Talks about great thinking, social skills, communication, personal development and team coaching. Because in a world that is black and white, we can all use some grey. My name is Lisette van Putten and I will be having these talks with you. I'm a social skills teacher and coach and I will be sharing my thoughts, knowledge and practical tips to create your own greatness. So stay tuned and enjoy this brand new episode. Let's go. Welcome to a new episode of the GreyT Talks podcast, episode number 7. Family patterns, GreyT patterns. That is what we're going to talk about. But not before I let you in on a little secret, because apparently in podcast world, it's a known fact that episode number 7 is very important and is this crucial moment when you are podcasting, because a lot of podcasts just end around episode 7. So I'm here to tell you that that is not my intention. I've already written out my next GreyT talk. So episode number 8 is already in the making. So no worries. I'm not planning on leaving you, and I am not nearly done with having these great talks with you. So okay, this GreyT talk is about family patterns, the GreyT patterns. So I want to start off with a little disclaimer because I am not a licensed family therapist and I'm not a parent myself. So this is just me expressing my ideas, my thoughts, my perspectives on the matter, based on my own experience and the knowledge that I gained as a team coach. Because in my very first class, when I studied to become a team coach, I learned that the first team that you're actually part of is your family. And as your family is your first team, there are a few roles that children can develop that might also be very true for you. So they say that the oldest child is actually the ruler, the leader, the one that organizes everything, takes care of everybody, and wants to make sure that everyone is okay, is settled, is set, is financially stable, make sure that they are taken care of, that they are doing great. So they are the ones that are organizing everything and that are very caring for the other children. Then the middle one usually becomes the mediator. And they are right there in the middle. So they are already there mediating, making sure that everyone is being heard, that they can express what they want to say. So whenever there are conversations or discussions, usually it's the middle child that is making sure that everyone is okay in that aspect. Then the youngest child is usually portrayed as the clown because they are the ones that want to create the best vibe, positive atmosphere. They want to make sure that everyone is having fun and enjoying themselves. So they are the ones that make sure that that actually happens. Um, so this is based on the first class I had when I studied to become a team coach. And when my teacher was telling me this, it resonated very much with me because I'm the youngest and I've been portrayed as the clown of the family, which I mean it's not a bad thing, but I am definitely there to make sure that everyone is enjoying themselves and that there's fun and um, creating that positive vibe. And it's not only within the family that I do that. I am very keen on positive vibes, good energy. So I will always make sure that people are feeling comfortable, feeling safe, feeling okay to express themselves. I think that's very important. And I am the youngest of two, so there's not a middle one. So the role of mediator is also something that I would definitely do within fights, discussions, conversations. I would always be the person that wants to make sure that everyone is heard, is seen, feels okay to actually express themselves, which is a role that I also do when I am actually coaching, especially within team coaching. So it is a good thing that I got to experience that already. And sometimes I think it's not my place to actually step into that role, and I shouldn't be doing that. However, it comes naturally, so I will do it automatically. And I think it's also very important when it comes to family patterns and family dynamics, that there there is someone that makes sure that everyone is able to express themselves. So, this is a little explanation on how the group dynamics within a family can work and how that works with the different roles of the kids. So, I'm very curious to learn if there's anything that resonates with you as well when it comes to like the oldest child that is like the ruler, the leader, making like sure that everyone's taken care of. The middle one being the person that is mediating, and the youngest that is actually there to create the vibe, the positive energy, and is sometimes referred to as the clown of the family. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on those different roles and if that resonates with you. So, why do I want to talk about family patterns when I'm not a family therapist and I'm not a parent myself? So, it's not something that I am struggling with myself. So, why do I want to talk about that? Well, I think from the whole interest in group dynamics and how that works, I do notice certain patterns within my own family, and also when I talk to friends and colleagues about this topic, that I learn, where I thought there are a few ideas, a few perspectives that I want to share because I think that it's important to know. Well, maybe if you are struggling with parenting yourself, or maybe you have some patterns within your family that you are struggling with, then this great talk can be helpful in figuring out what can be your next step. First of all, as a parent, I think it's important to accept the fact that you are going to mess up. We are not perfect as human beings. We are not perfect for a full 100% every single time, 24/7. We're not perfect. So why expect from ourselves to be a perfect parent? That's not how it works. I said the same thing in the episode when I talked about perfectionism, like you as a person cannot be 100% perfect. When I talked about social expectations within relationships, I also said if you as a person cannot be 100% perfect, how can you expect a relationship to be all happy and joyful and all love and all that's good? Because it's not perfect, because you're not perfect and you're bringing yourself to a relationship. And it's the same when it comes to you bringing yourself into a family and parenting. So you're not 100% perfect, so you cannot expect to be the best perfect parent there is. And of course you're going to mess up, because who knows what they are actually doing, even when you have studied everything you think you need to know before becoming a parent or whilst being a parent. Still, life happens, situations happens to which you're not familiar with, you're not prepared for it. So things are going to be really, really messy, and that's okay. I think the way to become quote unquote a perfect parent is actually making sure that you know how to actually act on the moments when you are messing up. So, how do you react? How do you handle when you did mess up? For me, I think the most important thing when you do mess up is to include your kid in how you're going to resolve it. And no, that's not me saying that you can treat your child as one of your best friends or as a therapist, but include your kid in what is going on. So if you are tired and you come home and you snap at your kid because they've been asking a bunch of questions, question after question after question after question, and you just snap because you're tired, which is human. You can be tired. You have your own struggles you have to deal with, which is perfectly fine. As long as you afterwards tell your kid, like, hey, I'm sorry that I snapped at you. I'm just really tired. And all those questions were like overstimulating me. And that's why I reacted the way I did. One of the things that you are teaching your own kid as well is that it's okay to mess up sometime, to be a role model in how you actually resolve something like that. So, how you handle that afterwards. And that way they can actually learn how to deal with their own struggles and own outbursts. So, I think that's like a win win. And even if you don't snap at your kid because you're tired, maybe you snap at your partner, which is also fine. That also happens. We're not 100% perfect, so that happens. Relationships are messy, as I discussed as well. So kids feel everything. They feel the energy, they feel the vibe, so they will know that something is wrong. You don't have to include your kids in the whole story, what's going on and why you are fighting, like not the details. But if you do discuss the fight with each other or you talk it through and you are okay again, you're good again, then include your kid on that process. Make sure that they are aware of, like, hey, my parents were fighting yesterday and now they're good again. But what happened? So just bring them along on that process, letting them know that you talked it through, you were fighting, things were said, you weren't feeling so great about each other, but you actually discussed it and now you're good again. So make sure that you bring your child on that journey on what is going on. Like they know something is going on, even if they are really, really young. They know that stuff is happening. So make sure that they are aware of how you are resolving all of that and how you're dealing with that. And again, I'm not telling you that you should bring your child into all the details of the fights that you're having. You don't have to bring your child into all the details of your personal struggles, but just let them see and make them aware on how you're dealing with it, and what that means on how you are acting towards them. So those family patterns, that dynamic is shifting, is moving around, is always like expanding and imploding and exploding, and like with any dynamic it's like having its ups and downs, and it's normal. And you might think like, oh, our family is like going through a bunch of ups and downs and we would like to have more like a balance. And I saw this video once where someone explained like, okay, you can have these major highs and really low lows, and you can feel like you really want that balance and you want to even them out and bring them closer to the center. However, it's the same as a heartbeat. You have those high highs, low lows. And when you bring it all together and you bring it more to the center, you're flatlined. So it means that you are dead. So you rather get used to that dynamic and how to deal with that than to like push those highs and those lows inward and try to press them and compress them to get to that center line, that middle line where you think it's balance. To me, balance is more on how to deal with those things. Like if you are in a very high high, how to cope with that. When if you are in a very very lowest of the lows, how to actually deal with that. To me, that is what balance means, and not trying to like put it in a pressure cooker, bringing it closer together. Because I think if you are putting that much pressure on it, it actually is not helping at all. So you might consider it overdone and not necessary to make your kid aware of what is going on and how to process certain outbursts and fights. Of course, that's perfectly fine. If you want to comment on that, let me know what you think. To me, from my own experience, I know that it is something that I missed, being taken in on that journey. Like, what is going on? There's a fight, and all of a sudden everything is okay again. But you miss those steps in between. You don't know what actually happened. So then when the next fight comes, you don't know how it's gonna resolve. But if you are made aware of how that actually works, that you have a fight and that you talk it over, and that you are okay again, made aware of that, then that can also be comforting and soothing for you as a child. Um, of course, that does mean a few things when it comes to the family patterns and what is needed. Because family patterns are the patterns of interacting with each other, like the family members interacting and acting with each other. And that pattern is something that grows and that evolves over time. And all the members in that family are also on their own journey of evolving, growing, developing, going through life, certain experiences, certain situations, life events, happy ones and negative ones. Like, everything passes. Everybody is living their life. So those patterns and those dynamics, they are constantly moving around. And what makes it really interesting is that all the individuals within that dynamic, they are on their own journey, but the timing, they are not synced up. So all the individuals within the family, they have their own journey and they have their own pace, their own time frame. So it's not as if when someone is going through a development that shifts the pattern and the dynamic, that someone else can actually easily adapt to that as well. No, they also have their own stuff going on. So that is that makes it really interesting and really really hard on how to navigate all that. And one of the things that can be really helpful with that is open communication. I think it's a must in any situation. If it's not family patterns and family dynamics, it's work, it's with your friends. Communication and open communication is definitely something that is really helpful. And to have that openness and that level of conversing with each other, it's needed that you are able to express your feelings and emotions. And not only that, also be able to express your needs and expectations. So to be aware of what you are going through and what you are feeling, and also what that actually entails and what that means and what it is that you need when it comes to what is helpful in the situation or what is not helpful, to actually make sure that you can express your expectations on how that pattern can work with you and not work against you, because that is something that otherwise will happen. If you don't know what is going on, then you will continue in the pattern as you grow into together, but nothing is changing, and that way you are actually working against each other instead of with each other. So if you learn how to address and label your feelings and your emotions, which is really helpful because it that way you can actually express your needs and expectations, which results into that openness when it comes to communicating with each other, can be really helpful to be able to actually express what it is that you need and expect from each other. And one of the other things that I think is really important when it comes to dealing with family patterns is not shutting someone down when it comes to their timing and their needs. So, as I said, all the individuals within your family, within that dynamic, are constantly moving, going through their own phases, going through their own journey, having their own struggles and own challenges. Um, but it's not synced. It's like rarely synced. So you have to be able to evolve and grow together in within that dynamic. Um, but when we do shut down people because they are not in the same pace or not within the same phase or needs or expectations, then you're actually also working against those patterns and not making that dynamic as viable as possible. And one of the things that is also really important when it comes to dynamics and how people are interacting with each other, and there's always an action that causes a reaction that has certain consequences, that creates certain feelings, and you actually always have to acknowledge the perspective of the other as well. So that's also where gray thinking comes into play, being consciously open-minded in your approach to people and situations, being aware of the different perspectives. And even when you are within a family where you think all the the family culture, the norms, the values that you have are all the same, certain perspectives, ideas, belief systems can be the same, but still the argumentation behind it, maybe you evolve and your belief system is something that you are questioning and you don't know really if it is still like something that suits your life at that moment. um, Open communication is really important, and for that you need to be aware of other perspectives and also acknowledge them, even if you don't believe them to be true. If it's not the same as what you are feeling, still acknowledge the fact that the other person has a certain perspectives, a certain experience, and that is their truth. And you don't own the truth, so you have your own, and they have their own. And by communicating and through communicating, you can actually understand each other better. But that doesn't mean that you always have to agree on everything. So I kind of feel like I was rambling a little bit about this whole idea that I have when it comes to family patterns, but I hope you were able to follow it. I started with explaining a little bit on the different roles that are within a family, and the oldest child being the leader and taking care of everyone, the middle child being the mediator and trying to get everyone to listen to each other and understand each other, and the youngest one being the clown and going for that positive vibes and that good energy. And then the biggest message from this great talk is, as a parent, I think you should just accept the fact that you are gonna mess up, because we are not 100% perfect, so we cannot expect ourselves to be the perfect parent all the time. But to actually be a quote unquote perfect parent, to me, is more on how you handle the situations when you did mess up and how you act on that. And to me, I think it's important to do that together and to make your kids part of that journey, not into detail, not using your kid as your best friend or a therapist and telling them everything, but to make them aware of, hey, this is happening. That's why it happened, or why I snapped, or why we were not seeing eye to eye, like you and your partner, for instance. Um, and walk them through what happened afterwards. So those are things that I think is important to express and include your kids in. And that brought us to the family patterns and that family dynamic, and how that is actually very complex. And you have all the individuals that are on their own journey, have their own thoughts, ideas, feelings, emotions, needs, expectations, and all within their own pace, of their development, which is never synced up or rarely synced up with other family members, let alone with the entire family altogether. But that it's important to have open communication, being able to address and label your emotions and your feelings, your needs and your expectations, and to not shut down someone when they are expressing their feelings and their needs and their expectations, and that it is important to acknowledge the other perspective in it and acknowledge their feelings and their truth and their perspective on the matter, even if it's not agreeing with your own. And of course, for this episode, I'm also going to share a great trigger and a great tip. my great trigger is when I hear that someone actually did get shut down by their partner or family member when they express their need to talk about certain things. So they have built up the courage already, taken the time, making sure that they know what they wanted to say, and then they address it. And because it doesn't suit the timing or the other person's headspace, they get shut down. And that is something that does annoy me a lot because it sets you back. You have to, when you are on your own journey and there are things that you are struggling with and you want to deal with them, it already takes a lot of energy, a lot of courage to come to that point and address certain things, especially with people that are really close to you, giving feedback, expressing your expectations, expressing your needs. It is really, really hard if you're not familiar with doing so. And if you are really close to the person, it just adds value to whatever is being said. So that courage that you are actually building, and then you are at that moment where you asking someone to talk about certain situations or certain topics and they shut you down, it sets you back. It's an impact on your trust, your own journey, your own struggle, and having to deal with that because you decided that it is worth talking about it and it's needed, it's necessary, because it's part of that journey that you're on, and it's a step into overcoming certain struggles or to understand certain things better or to grow as a person. And when you get shut down by someone that is so close to you, it does set you back for sure. So my great tip, of course, maybe it's an open door. However, I think it's very important to never shut down a family member when they come to you because they want to talk about something that is bothering them, that they're struggling with, that is a challenge that they want to overcome. Even though it's something that you don't think is a big deal, you weren't thinking about, you already dealt with yourself, even if that is the case, and someone comes to you, even if it's not a family member, but okay, we're talking about family patterns. If a family member comes to you and they want to discuss that, don't shut them down and just hear them out, because whatever it is that they have to say, even though it's feedback that might sting a little, it might get a little uncomfortable, but you will also have a lot to learn from it. Just listen with an open mind, hear their perspective, ask questions, like be really, really great in your way of thinking and approaching that situation. Ask questions, ask follow-up questions, really listen to what it is that they're saying, not only the words that they're saying, but also nonverbal communication. Just pay attention to what it is that they are expressing, and you will learn from it no matter what. And you will have to assess it and you will have to process it, and you get to adjust things accordingly to what is being said. And you will eventually grow as a person and also as a family. Thank you for listening to this episode of GreyT Talks. Please let me know what you think, ask me anything, and spread greatness by sharing these talks with everyone you think needs a little bit more grey. Don't forget to be great until our next GreyT Talk.